A Birmingham council candidate with an historic terrorism conviction is facing renewed scrutiny as the campaign begins. Shahid Butt, who's standing in Sparkhill as part of an independent alliance of candidates, says he was wrongly convicted abroad and his confession was forced under torture. He's legally allowed to stand, but his candidacy has prompted sharp criticism from some politicians and community groups.
Well, the simple answer is that this would not be unprecedented, and I give you the fact that if you go to Belfast, over the period since the peace process, there have been many who have stood successfully for the Northern Ireland Assembly who were ex-terrorists. That was seen as being vital, if you like. These were people who had, quite literally I suppose, put their lives on the line as they see it, and of course were seen to be representative of their community, and it was seen to be, if you like, of nudging the peace process forward and taking the gun out of politics, which by and large has successfully happened. Obviously we're talking about the streets of Birmingham. We don't have a conflict where you have somebody who has been convicted, albeit in a different country, but nonetheless has these convictions. It's a real difficult one, and I'm of the view that by and large anybody can stand for Parliament if the law allows them to do so, and if the electors wish to have them as their representative, then that is perfectly fine in terms of democracy.
Butt was convicted by a Yemeni court in 1999 and jailed for 5 years after prosecutors said an armed group planned attacks in Aden, including the British consulate. Butt disputes the conviction, saying the process was unfair and that he signed a confession under torture. Since returning to the UK, he's been involved in community activity and political campaigning. He's standing under the Independent Candidate Alliance, a group fielding candidates locally on issues including Gaza and public services. Under election rules, people who have completed prison sentences are not automatically barred from standing in local elections.
So there is a real difficult conundrum here to be solved, where you'll have these divisions will become cemented, and it's very difficult once the divisions occur to undo them. I bring myself back to Northern Ireland, where of course we see what this sectarian division does, and it literally erects walls, and in extremis it leads to people being murdered for the sake of one thing or another, an ideology, and it's not a good thing as far as our politics is concerned.
With nominations confirmed, voters in Sparkhill will decide whether a candidate's past should influence their choice at the ballot box. Electoral officials say eligibility is set out in law, while wider judgments are left to the electorate. Polling in Birmingham takes place this May.